little bit. First, tributes from state leaders poured in after original Your Vote Counts panelist and longtime state representative Richard Morrissette passed away after a valiant battle with cancer. Here's the hot seat with Scott Mitchell.
Good morning. Welcome to Hot Seat. I'm Scott Mitchell. Nearly 20 years ago, then News 9 news director Blaise LeBay asked me to help him create a public affairs segment highlighting the often overlooked issues at the state capitol. He asked me to pick two lawmakers who could communicate boldly and effectively on both sides of the political spectrum. Without hesitation, I told him that Representatives Randy Terrell and Richard Morrissette were the people that we needed to have on. Now, almost 20 years later, Your Vote Counts is the most watched and most influential public affairs programming in Oklahoma on Oklahoma's #1 stations in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And one of the pillars of that creation was Richard Morrissette, who suddenly passed away this past week at 69 years old. He was my friend and colleague, but he had many friends and colleagues. This week on Hot Seat, they shared their thoughts about Richard Daniel Morrissette. Now, you're just about to see the short television version, but if you go to news9.com and newson6.com digital right now, you can see the entire extended version of the tributes to Richard Morrissette.
One of my favorite things about Richard is you could tell what kind of day it was going to be with Richard depending on if he had combed his hair or not. When he walked on the floor looking sharp, hair perfect, he was pretty calm. It was going to be a normal day. But you could tell when he had been up working all night, had been doing his research, and he walked in with that glint in his eye, the presiding officer knew it was going to be a long day.
And, you know, when Richard came in, we were virtually tied. And it stayed that way for most of his. The Republicans started. Like you said, they were eroding away at that, and we're going into the supermajority that we are now. But what I noticed was even though it was changing, and even though his views weren't necessarily going to be the predominant views in the legislature anymore, he handled that beautifully.
Richard may disagree with you, but he never made you the villain afterwards. We would go have lunch or go grab a cup of coffee after a serious debate, or he would come up and pull his glasses down and say, "Young man, you did a good job."
I think he leaves a great legacy. And I think during this time that we are so divided, what I like about him is he never compromised what he believed, just like I'll never compromise what I believe. But you don't have to treat people poorly or view the other side as the enemy.
That's the one thing I will tell you this. When I did the show long enough, people start to recognize you, catch you in Walmart or whatever, and they'd be like, "My gosh, how do you even listen to that guy?" And I would always open with the joke. I said, "Richard's a great guy, he's just wrong." And they would laugh. But I would say, here's the thing I can tell you about Richard Morrissette, is he is who he is, and he is it all the time. He doesn't change his spots. He is the guy that you see.
Ideas are important, and Richard had ideas. He was eager to share those ideas. He would listen to other people's ideas. None of us have a monopoly on the truth. The truth lies somewhere when we all come together and find out what's good and what's right for the vast majority of Oklahomans. And I know in my heart that that's what he wanted at the end of every single day. And I'm really, really fortunate to have learned from him and to have shared space with him.
But he stood up for what he believed, whether it was popular or whether it wasn't. And, in terms of the check boxes in life, I think those are 5 pretty important ones that he checked all of them. So, thank you. So, to my good friend Representative Morrissette, who represented an adjoining district in South Oklahoma City, he will be missed.